In 1971, Richard Branson opened the first Virgin record retail store on Oxford Street in London, and in 1984 he made his first flight of Virgin Atlantic in a second-hand 747 bought from Aerolíneas Argentina. Today Virgin is one of the world's most recognized and respected brands and a leading brand and venture capital organization. The Virgin Group has gone on to grow very successful businesses in sectors ranging from mobile telephony to transportation, travel, financial services, media, music and fitness. With more than 200 branded companies worldwide, Virgin employs approximately 50,000 people in 29 countries and had a global branded revenue in 2008 exceeding £11 billion. Looking at the competing values framework, Virgin would place itself as far up towards decentralization as it possibly could. It has no massive global headquarters like most other companies, minimal management layers, no bureaucracy and a tiny board. The Virgin organizational structure involves very little hierarchy, offering short lines of communication and flexible response capability. The 200 small companies that is part of the group runs themselves according to the human relations models and gives the employees a great deal of responsibility and freedom in order to stimulate idea generation, initiative, commitment and fun. Ultimately, the Virgin Group and its 200 companies are managed by a small group of people, including Richard Branson himself.
Significant proof of climate change caused by greenhouse gases, including CO2. The century of globalization means the world is getting smaller. Companies producing abroad, the number of joint ventures is rising, and the people as well as goods traveling around the world. Unfortunately, every journey leaves carbon footprint. With increasing traffic on the ocean, roads, and the sky, this footprint are no longer small. The planet's overall temperature has risen with more than 1 degree Celsius. Icebergs are melting, sea levels are rising, and the ozone shield gets thinner and thinner.
Climate change affects more or less everyone, but aviation companies are blamed to be one of the main factors of it. In 2006, a spokesman of Virgin Atlantic said their fleet produced approximately 4.7 million tons of CO2 in their most profitable year as yet, as they turned over £68 million. This number includes both operations, taxiing and flying. Since the Kyoto summit, most nations agreed to set up new regulations to reduce emissions. One of the decisions made was to raise the taxes on emissions, oil and fuels remarkably. The biggest part of these costs are broken down on passenger flight tickets, but the rest of the cost falls on airlines. Even though the number of passengers is still increasing, as a survey of the International Air Transport Association in 2008 said, Virgin's revenue has plummeted to £5.7 million for 2008, and the estimated turnover for 2009 will be around £46 million. The Aviation Global Deal Group, where Virgin Atlantic is a stakeholder among some of the major airlines, wanted to reduce the carbon neutral growth by 5% and the emissions by 20% before 2020.
Aircraft manufacturers and the aviation companies are forced to work more efficiently in order to consume less fuel. Already small changes can help to save thousands of tons of kerosene every year, putting the airplanes on a diet and cutting weight, or leaving the gate with all clear instead of waiting on the tarmac with running turbines. Although scientists working on bigger aircrafts to transport more passengers with a less consumption of fuel. Virgin Atlantic has seen the signs of the climate punch earlier than most of their competitors. So they've flown a Boeing 747 from London to Amsterdam entirely on biofuel. Some calls it a marketing gag, others say biofuel produces more CO2 by making it than it's actually saving. Nevertheless, it was a great effort for the company, because today's biofuel might freeze in an altitude of 10,000 meters. So for safety reasons, a flight could only be done with 20% biofuel and 80% conventional kerosene. Making a plane running on biofuel would also bring a remarkable tax credit. Today, the United States providing a tax grant of 56 per US gallon for growing and harvesting biofuel. The European countries granting a tax credit of 13 pence per liter for buying. That means on a 7-hour flight from London to New York, the company would get a total tax credit split it in 2 continents of £20,900 per way. However, in order to make flying more environmental friendly, Virgin introduced the company Virgin Green Fund. They fund companies which are researching on alternative fuels. Shortly they announced to develop fuel from algae. This would prevent the drawback of increasing the worldwide hunger in correlation of growing fuels instead of food. If they make it happen, running a plane entirely on biofuel, that would not only be a big change in flying environmentally friendly, it would also be a financial fortune.